Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Revit Pure Live. I am your host, Nicolas Catelier, an architect, a BIM specialist, and the founder of Revit Pure. Thanks for joining this session of Revit Pure Live, the season finale of the winter season. We have a very special guest, but before introducing the guest, we have a couple of things to talk about. First, I'm glancing at the chat, the live chat. So for those of you, I know some people are watching the replay, but we're currently live on March 1st at 3 p.m. in the afternoon Eastern time. And we have some people from Belgium, Barcelona, Massachusetts, New Zealand, California, all around the world. And I do have a special question for you this week. Instead of just asking where you're from, I'm asking you, what guests would you like to see for the next season? So I'm starting to plan the next season of Revit Pure Live, and I'm wondering, what guest would you like to see? What experts, BIM or Revit experts, would you like to see on the show? So just type in the answer in the chat. I'll be reading all the comments and taking it into account when it will be time to invite the next guest for the upcoming season. All right, so while that is going on, a couple of things to mention. These are the Revit Pure pamphlets. Since 2016, I've released 4 free PDF guides about specific Revit topics 4 times a year, and we've grown to quite a big collections. Currently, there's actually one missing. We're at 27 free pamphlets that you can download for free, the entire collection for free at revitpure.com/pamphlet. I'll actually put that into the chat. There we go. So pamphlets, and you can see the themes we covered: filters, line weight, finishes, 3D views, phases, PyRevit, railings, families, dynamo, landscape, groups. So all topics that can be confusing for a lot of Revit users. Some of these topics are more for beginners, some of them are more intermediate, some of them go to some advanced topics. The most popular one in the whole collection, I think it's the one about the coordinate system, which is still a big hit on the website. Anyway, you can download the whole collection for free at revitpure.com/pamphlets, completely free, and you get a bunch of free PDF guides. All right, and before moving on to the guests, I've just opened the enrollment for my cohort-based course called Advanced Revit Family Strategies. What is a cohort-based course? It means it's a live course. It's not pre-recorded. And with 6 sessions, live sessions of 3 hours on Mondays and Wednesdays between 1 to 3 p.m. And this starts on March 20th. And the last date to enroll is March 17, since Patrick Day, actually. And yeah, not only you will get live sessions, but this course also include PDF handouts about specific Revit family topics. You can see the 4 main topics of this course: strategies for the family editor, deploying arrays and formulas, deciphering nested and shared families, and prepping the family for the end user. And this is the second time I have this cohort. The first time it was in December, and I had an absolute blast giving this course due to the interactive nature of this course. There's a community board. Students can post their families, whatever they're working on. I can comment and give advice on how to make the families better. If you're looking to improve your family library content, I think it's a great course for you. And here you can have a glimpse of the bonus content you will receive. This is one of the PDF guide. This one is about formulas, where I really go deep to help you create strong and flexible formulas for your families. And also it includes family samples. All the kind of families that are mentioned in the course, you can download them with a sample file that is included. You can see a glimpse of the community. People will post their families and ask questions about it. Anyway, that's the Advanced Revit Family Strategies course. Starts on March 20th. I would be thrilled if you can join me, and hopefully 29 other students for this cohort. It is live. I'm putting the link in the chat as well. It should also be in this video description, but anyway, there you go in the chat. All right, that's all for the little housekeeping before starting the show. So looking at the recommendations you have for the upcoming guests, Anyway, I'll read most of that later. I don't want to interrupt the show, but if you have ideas for guests, keep writing, and I'll have a look at the chat later on. Today's guest is Nivin Nabeel. Nivin is based in Toronto, Canada, same country as me. She graduated from the Ryerson University in 2016 with a bachelor's degree in architecture. She's currently working in Ideate Software as a customer success manager since 2022. Before that, she worked as an intern, technologist, and BIM manager at multiple architecture firms in the Toronto area. And before working at Ideate, she was at Montgomery Season Architects. I hope I said that right. So let me bring Nivin. Hello, Nivin. How are you?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. Thanks for accepting the invitation,
Yeah,
and
no
thanks
problem.
for joining the show. All right, I'll start with a question for you. How did you get interested in BIM? I was looking through your profile in LinkedIn, and I saw that you were doing some graphic design and UX design. Then you started architecture. So how did you get interested in BIM?
Yeah, so when I started working in architectural offices, I was gravitating towards like problem-solving roles. And I found that BIM was the one that is all about like problem solving, looking at new technologies, implementing that, helping users get onboarded with that. Um, and I got really interested when I started looking at the Revit model data. And I love looking at data. So it was something that I'm very passionate about. So when you approached me to talk today, I was thinking about something that I'm very passionate about. And so I picked Revit data. Why not? And so that's just something that I picked for today.
All right. And the first time I came across you was I was working in a modular project, and someone so I was researching big time everything modular at that time in Revit, and someone sent me a link to a CanBIM presentation that you did
Yep.
on a modular project. Can you just give an overview what that was about, and maybe I can share
Yeah.
the link if people are interested?
Yeah, that project was basically 12 modular projects going on at the same time. There were updates that are happening on these little module at the across the sites. So there was a lot of like figuring out on how to set up the model, what tools to use, how we're going to implement this. It was a very fast project. There was a lot of people involved. Um, and it was like a very interesting like a BIM problem to resolve, and looking at the model data and how you can update it and work on it was something that I was very passionate about. And so when I presented that, actually, I had a lot of people reach out asking, why not, why this, not this? And Nick, you were one of them. And I was very flattered, to hear that, my words are reaching somewhere and people
Hmm.
are hearing them. Yeah, it was a very interesting project.
Yeah, sure. Like if you're watching this and you're doing something interesting in Revit or in BIM, please publish it. Like do a video about it
Yeah,
or a
exactly.
blog post. It's really worth sharing. If you have a solution to something that could remove some pain from someone, it's your duty to talk about it if you're allowed, of course.
Wonderful.
And yeah, but during the presentation, I'll post a link later. But it was clear that you really went deep into it and you look at, you explored multiple solutions. So that,
Yep.
there you go. Like, yeah, seems like a pretty big Revit BIM geek.
Yeah.
And so you've changed roles. So since that you've been at Ideate for 7 months, at what you told me.
Yep. Yep. 7 months.
All right. So I think we have lots of stuff to cover. I'll move to your let you share your screen. Okay, you
Go.
we can see your screen now. So I'll let you go on, and I'll keep an eye on the questions.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, so as you've heard, today we'll be talking about mastering the art of Revit data. I picked it because it's something that I'm very passionate about, and I want to showcase how you can manage all that with Ideate Software. And this is where I'm working currently. I've been working there for 7 months, as Nicholas has mentioned. So I am located in Toronto, as he said. I have a bachelor's of architectural science, so my background is architecture. I worked previously as a BIM manager at several architectural firms, and I was very focused on digital design technology and implementing new workflows and researching tools. Um, I've worked in both large and small firms. I've done a lot of coordination between consultants. And throughout my journey, I've been a huge advocate of Ideate Software, and it's been my tool as a BIM manager to help resolve a lot of problems that I come across every day. And so I decided to join their team. So I've included my email there as well as my LinkedIn. If you want to connect after, even if you just want to say hi, I would appreciate that. And if you have any questions as well, you can reach out. So the objective of today, we're going to look at some of the common Revit database access limitation. There are database in Revit that are not accessible through the Revit UI, and how we've worked with how Ideate Software had made that accessible to all users. I will be talking about some efficient model navigation while you're relying on model data. This is a huge issue when you're working in Revit. Not a lot of the data is accessible easily for users to navigate through the model. Also, we'll look at how you can safely and quickly edit large model data. And hopefully at the end of the session, you'll become a data ninja. For those of you that don't know who Ideate Software is, as a company, we're much more than just our software. We're known for our extensive online help, including project documentation, workflows, topic educational videos, and we're also supporting and updating our software for the 4 releases of Revit, like you see on the screen here. We support our language software in 6 different languages. As well, we have an ROI calculator on our website that allows you to input the time that you spend for a certain task, and it gives you, the hours that you spent on it so that you can get your return of investment. And we also have customers in almost every geographical region, which allows us to have a lot of complex data from our customers for our comprehensive QA workflows to make sure our software is working. So Ideate Software produces 6 add-on solutions that increases the efficiency of Revit, regardless of what kind of consultants you are. So it does work for all consultants, included here, all disciplines. We love Revit here at Ideate Software, but we know that it doesn't really resolve everything that we need. We can continuously monitor the Autodesk Revit forum, Revit user groups, industry blogs, newsletters, and other events to keep up to date with the discussions. We just want to make sure that we help you fill in some of these workflow gaps that the Revit BIMS ecosystem doesn't help resolve. And we want to make sure that you're efficient, reduce time, and make money in your workflows. So I've gone ahead and created this diagram that kind of highlights overarching things that Ideate Software cares about. And these are the things. Here we have Revit model productivity, project auditing, model data and health, and data accessibility. I've included that there just to talk about a little bit about making some of these parameters that are not available through the Revit API, making it accessible to our users so that they can make powerful edits to their model, model navigation, data management, and automation, which is our latest software automation, which I'll be covering a little bit here in the session as well. So if we were looking at data management, project auditing, and model data, I'm talking about BIMLink, which allows you to export large amount of data from the Revit model and make efficient changes in Excel and push it back into the Revit model. Next, we have Explorer, which I think, Nick, you mentioned that you've played along with it a little bit. So what it helps you to is navigate the Revit model. It's very powerful, more powerful than the project browser. You'll see why once I demo it. It basically helps you look at every element in the model. Then we have Ideate Style Manager, which ensures your model styles, let's say object styles, line styles, and your templates are all standardized within your Revit model. Let's say you have like concrete hatch that's used in a family versus a model and they all look different. You can merge and purge. all these standards with really quick data access to that. Then we have Sticky, which allows you to basically link back information that is not BIM data, basically like a Word document or a PDF or an Excel back into your Revit model and keep them up to date. So you have other users that are able to edit that data and link it back in. The last bit of model productivity, we have basically Ideate Apps. That is a collection of tools. The first portion, the orange, is basically day-to-day tasks, and the blue is just sheet management and view creation. And lastly, we have automation, which allows you to export a lot of information from your model. For example, your model health check, or creating document issue records, managing your COBie data, and generating takeoffs. And we recently added automated tasks for PDF export and DWG. And you can deliver a lot of information regarding your families as well in a CSV format, and much more. You can get really creative with it.
I'm just curious, which one is
Yeah.
the most popular out of all the plugins?
Which one is the most popular?
Yeah, they're the most used.
Like personally?
No, like for the most
personally,
downloads, for
BIMLink and
example.
Explorer.
Okay. Personally, yeah.
And automation. I guess that's why I'm kind of covering them today, because they do. I mean, all of our tools address issues regarding model data, but the ones that I'm really passionate about are these three. So that's what I'm going to mention today.
Okay, and there's a question from Benjamin that asks, are these Ideate add-ins free or paid for use? So I think they're paid for use.
Yes,
and I guess you can find it more at the Ideate website, right?
Yep, you got it. Thanks for the question. Okay, so first I'll cover Ideate Explorer, as I've mentioned. So basically, it is a true model project browser. It allows you to kind of look for every instance of your model. It allows you to easily understand your model and make powerful edits. You can swap components and update these information, auditing your elements and reviewing Revit model warning. Unlike the built-in warning manager that we all know, our solution lets you interact with the model as well as the warning that you're trying to resolve. And it's kind of like a non-modal window that you're able to just go back and forth and see the affected elements, and you can just double click to them and go to them and see what they're doing. And I will be demoing that. And it gives you basically the ability to dissect your model in ways that are just not possible or easy with the project browser, such as showing your element by level, phase, room, space, or work set are just a few examples. Also, if you have been using our tool, there is the query button. I don't know, Nick, if you've used it at all or seen it.
I'm not sure. It's been a while. I have used it. I've used Ideate Explorer for warnings. I demonstrated it for one of my course. I haven't played with it in a few months. Yeah, maybe you can show.
Oh, good to know. So with query, it allows you to look at the parameters within the elements that you're selecting, and I will be demoing that. So you're able to, it was a huge benefit. Like you're able to quickly find the elements in the model. It helped me a lot as a BIM manager when I was providing support, as well as it empowered my users to also navigate and dissect their model in ways that are just not possible with Revit. Okay, we'll go into the demo. So as you can see here, Ideate Explorer is open. I'm selecting elements in the model, and it automatically updates your selection. And you can see what you're selecting. So let's say I'm selecting 2 walls in this model. In Revit, I can just say, okay, it says multiple walls selected. It just tells you that walls are in there. It doesn't tell you what they are. But with Explorer, you're able to kind of expand your data tree here to see the each instances that has been selected, and you can kind of do whatever you want with it. And as you can see here, the display is active view. When I'm doing model auditing, it is contextual with this tool. I typically set it to entire project. And let's say for this example, I'm going to go ahead and select my operable glazing window, and then switch it with another curtain panel. So in this example, I've selected them all in the model and then gone ahead and selected the sliding instead. So in here, I'm showing that it adds it to the existing one that we had. And you can go ahead and just select it, double click to it. It goes to the model where that element has been updated, or you can go ahead and select it. I'm sorting by category here, and let's look at this built-in filter that we've included called Ideate Audit, which gives you a list of catered information that you need to pay attention to when you're auditing your model. For example, you have CAD imports, you have groups or lines or whatever dimensions, grids that you need to review. And this is kind of this quick list that you have access to. So with the CAD one, let's say I'm reviewing it, there shouldn't be that many CAD imports in this model to begin with, but this one is showing that there's two of this one, this door detail. I double click to it to see where it is. So it took me to that view in which I had that instance linked in. And then the second one, I'm like, where is that one? So Explorer prompts you, okay, it is hidden in a view somewhere temporarily. Do you want to view it? You're like, yeah, I do want to view it. So it takes you there. You notice that this CAD import was actually on a site plan. Happens a lot. People accidentally link it. They can't tell where it is. You can see who created it. My awesome colleague Richard had created this file, so he's the creator of them all. So you can go here and kind of inspect your model as such. Do whatever you want with it. You can delete it, review it, send it to your users. So this one here, looking at your detail lines. So let's say someone had just exploded a CAD into your model, and we have these 47, 48, 49, and you just want to switch it to a detail fine, and it's going to go ahead everywhere where that's located in your model and swap it to the correct line. It is a bit different than Style Manager, which tells you where it's been used and how you should swap it, but this one is more like contextual editing that's happening quickly. The next task, I want to select my casework, and I want to look for elements that are in place. And this is an extra parameter that we've added that obviously not available in Revit that allows you to know if the element is in place or not. So I've selected my casework, gone ahead and selected query, looked for that parameter. It told me, okay, there's 28 that are in place. I've gone ahead again. I could have done this quickly. Like I could have done this again with one sweep where I'm looking at other parameters that are tied to my selection. It says here at the bottom, you can select up to 5 properties. So I'm selecting the type name in this instance and created by, and this will generate the list of the types. And then you can easily select them all and export it and send it to your team if that's what you want to do. And also it gives you the count, which is awesome. Like if I see bookshelf count 4, I know this immediately needs to be a family. It helps you convert all these in-place families into families right away. That's kind of helping you export that.
So wait, so these are in-place families and they're being converted?
No, they're just in-place
Okay.
family. It tells you. Yeah.
Okay, it tells you that they're in-place.
Yeah, it tells you that they are. Yeah. Thanks
So
for
while that's going on, we have some good questions already. We've got
okay.
Ian from Kansas saying we've been using the Idea tools for 6 months and we love it. Good. And we've
Nice.
got a question from Demir that says, is there any tool from Ideate with we can manage all the families and multiple separate models at once? So does this work with the open model?
Automation.
The tool automation. Okay.
Which we'll cover. Yeah. It helps you report on that information. Right now we're looking into few scripts that does act on the model and do edits. It is a careful workflow that we're considering. But right now it reports on a lot of information. Great
Okay.
question though. Yeah.
And same thing for Revit links. If there's a Revit link,
Yeah,
can
you can
I
read from a Revit
explore
link. Yeah,
with
exactly. You
Explorer?
can read
Okay.
it. Mhm. With Explorer, it's
Mm-hmm.
contextual, it's within the same model, but
Mm-hmm.
with BIMLink, which is what we're going to discuss later, it can read information from a linked model.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. I'll let you keep going.
Yep. Great question. So in here, I'm showing that you're able to, once you found your in-place families, you're able to utilize the Revit save. So you're able to save your selection. We've just integrated that little button there. You can load it again. It's just not dynamic. So the issues of selection being dynamic, we've gone ahead and integrated the Revit filters in there. So in here, if I want to select all my 1 hour rated based on the parameter, it updated that for me right away. In here, I'm selecting my fire rating and host wall type fire rating, and I'm able to, if I had data in here, it will tell me like the fire rating of this door is 1 hour and this wall is 1.5 or something like that, that you're able to see them side by side. And this is an extra parameter that we've added the host wall elements. Then we are looking at navigation, which looks at legends, schedules, sheets, and views. I can select all my views that are not on sheet in there. And again, I can do view name and created by, and export that for the team so that they can review it. And gives you a list, which is super quick as you saw. And then one more thing, this is a new feature that you can actually look for the parameter value. So let's say I'm looking for room 123. You can go ahead and type 123, and it's going to go to that view, and it shows it to you. Crazy tool that allows you to kind of select the parameter values instead of just being limited to the parameter name or the the family name and whatnot. You can do that. Then lastly, we have the warnings tab. You can go you can kind of customize it. If you want to customize from like high, medium to low warning, we have custom warnings that you can get in an XML format that we've already gone ahead and catered to all of our users. It comes with our software. You can easily customize that and figure out what is important to you. Let's say, you know, I want to look up for a slightly off axis or something like that. I can set it to high, medium, or low, or not ranked. So this will affect the number of warnings that are important to me in that specific model or as a company that you want to push. Then we have the threshold and number of warnings. We have 100 warnings per 100 megabytes. This is the warnings that you're seeing. So 76 warnings is the number of warnings, and this is the within that limit that it exceeds it.
Can you tell me that by default the ratings that we see, like the currently red and yellow and green warnings, is this a pretty good indicator for people if they're not that familiar with the importance of certain warnings?
Yes. Yep. So we basically, based on recommendation from Autodesk, we had gone ahead and taken the top, I believe, 50, and we've gone ahead and sorted them medium, high, and low. That affects your model performance. But there are parameters, there are certain, you know, when you're looking at health check, you're either looking at model health check or like the actual data. Let's say if you care about the data that day, then maybe you care more about this information rather than the actual model health. So it is customizable. That's the beauty about it. Is that, you know, like let's say you have a model that's always going to be slightly off axis and you just don't want to track that data. We get it. It's slightly off axis forever, right? So let's say this is known for this model. We just want to omit it for now. And we focus on other things that we care about.
And can you tell me which, like, give a kind of a preview to users? What are the most important warnings typically that users should have a look?
Well, it's in the XML file. There is a lot of them
Yeah.
that you can see actually in that XML file, and they are ranked already in there.
That they're ranked. So what's the worst one? I'm curious.
Well, model in place is probably one
Model
that
in place.
everyone does, and it impacts your model performance, increases your
Mm-hmm.
model size, because if you have it model in place and it's kind of used everywhere, it's not a family, right? It's not,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't count it once, it counts it 5 times or something like that. That's probably one. A lot of CAD imports and exploded stuff that affects your model performance. These are the ones that I would recommend looking at. Also, I will go later on model health that talks about the
Mm-hmm.
Power BI dashboard that actually we've produced that looks at these kind of warnings and what is important to users. And we have like actionable items that does that. I'll definitely go into detail into that in a bit.
All right.
Great question. The other feature that I want to show here in BIMLink that actually very cool. Here you can, oh, all right. Okay. You can go ahead and look, you see here, this is sorted by the type of error. You can sort it by element. So if you want to look, like this sweep instance is giving you 48 warnings. Maybe you should address that one first, and then that will lower your, warnings in the model right away because you're addressing that specific element. Not a lot of people know about that feature, so I thought I'd mention it. So here, let's say we're addressing the highlighted floors overlap. I can go ahead and isolate it, and it's the same as the Revit isolation tool we've just integrated in there. Make a powerful edit, and then hit enter, don't attach, and that's it. So that now that warning just disappeared from the model. No longer the issue. So let's say you see something else and you just want to set it to something else. Let's say not ranked or high, or like you want to change the warnings ranking. You can go ahead to filter and go to hidden filter, and you can unhide it if that's what you want to do. So it is very customizable. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to talk about selecting elements by parameter values, which is very powerful. In this example, I will be looking at air terminals in the project. I will be selecting air terminals with 75 liters per second flow and a zone 30, and I'll change it to zone 100. Okay, so this is an MEP example, as you can see. I've gone ahead and selected all my air terminals, utilized my query button, which I love, and looked for the parameters that I want to address, like flow. And then we selected the zone, control plus, we can select up to 5. So here I can select the 75 liters per second and zone 30, which has 4 in this model. Go ahead and select that and change the flow value to 100. So that's your task. You can do this contextually. You can go ahead and select and edit. So that's what's powerful about this. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and jump to BIMLink. With Ideate BIMLink, it allows you to export huge amount of parameters and their data to Excel and utilize the power of Excel to make changes seamlessly and push them back into the Revit model. Ideate BIMLink becomes your basically standards for all of your Revit data needs. The Revit schedule just wasn't designed as powerful as Excel. With the power of Excel, you're able to manipulate the data, and you have this powerful interface between Revit and Excel to be able to be very productive. This product comes with pre-configured links. They're called BIM link definition. That allows users to be productive quickly and easily. The software ships with 350 around of link definitions that our software comes with, and it is a direct result of our customers' feedback. And bonus also, with this tool, you're able to create new elements and swap them, as we had just seen in Explorer. You can swap elements with BIMLink as well. Okay, I'll jump into the demonstration. So with BIMLink here, I'm going to go ahead and select one of the pre-configured link for health check. This is the health check thing that you were talking about. I will be selecting all my views. Let's say this is addressing the views data in the model. I want to do something to them. So I've gone ahead and exported them. This is all the related data that you can see that comes in with that link definition that are associated to the views. So you can go ahead and export it to our health check dashboard, and which has a bunch of basically workbooks that you can kind of replace. So this is what this just did, and we'll look at them. So these are the tabs at the bottom, you see. So we have tabs that are like the raw data that comes from the Revit model. And we also have summary views that are pivot tables that constantly update from your data that you export on the other tabs, just to report what's happening in the model. So in this exercise, I'm just taking my view names, and I'll be going ahead and adding a little suffix and making sure everything is capitalized. You can easily do that. So this is, upper for capitalization. And then let's say I want to add a suffix, let's say conference building or whatever. And then and is for concatenating this data. And this is the cell that I'm selecting. So I'm able to add the suffix thing, added all that. Go ahead and drag it. So now I have the resulted data. Go ahead and copy and paste in place. Paste value, sorry. And so this is able to kind of push those changes back into the Revit model. So you are selecting the check. Yep. And then push it back into the Revit model. These are the tabs that you saw. And then it tells you there's no errors and warnings. This was the new value, blah, 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 and then import it. And then you'll see here on the left that it has been updated throughout the model. Yep. Next thing I want to show you with BIMLink, that you're able to create new elements. Let's say you're looking at creating new sheets in your Revit model. I picked a structural model this time to do this demo. Again, you can include subfolders or go for elements created, and you can create new, and this is all the new, anything that includes new, you can use BIMLink to do that. You come in and all the related data table and the new sheet is there, but then you're like, where is everything here? Okay, so there's a filter that says if it doesn't have a value, don't show it. But let's say for the sake of this, you want to see the list so that you know what sheets are available in your Revit model that you can just copy. So this is kind of looking at like a template that you already have in your model. So this was the export, and the other one was the template. So here you can include the word new basically to do that. And our software comes in with this Excel for model setup, like creating new levels, creating new plans, creating the sheets, and then positioning these viewports as well. You can go ahead and see there's coordinates in there as well that you can do. So in here, these are all like little formulas. It looks at another sheet to position it and give it a proper name so that they're all the same. The sheet name and the view name is the same. So you can go ahead and copy it and paste it as as a value. So now you have them all in the model. And then because we've exported the existing list, you're able to just copy the existing title block and then go ahead and drag it down so that this is what the title block that is existing in the Revit model as well. You can just push it into the project. So if you don't have a title block assigned in this workflow, it will create a placeholder sheets instead. The last little trick with Excel, you can isolate duplicate values before pushing it back into the model. So let's say you have duplicate values, let's say 303, they are duplicated, it will say that they are red. And if you don't, then it's all going to be white. But just so you know, this is extra precaution. But Revit BIMLink will tell you that these things are there is an error, there is a duplicate, the same mark value, so you don't have to worry about that. This is just an extra fun feature that I like to show. These are the updates, zero errors. You can scroll through and see your updates, and then go ahead and hit import. Cool. And so this is what these sheets look like in model.
So by importing the schedule, that automatically created the new sheets that you've added in the Excel sheet.
Yeah, I
Getting
wrote
that right?
new in the element ID, and that's how that element was created.
And when you imported, there were some rows that were in yellow. Were these the
updated ones.
the new ones or the updated?
Yep. Yep, these are the new ones. Yep.
Okay, and so you
Updated to the
can
Revit model.
so you can use this to create sheets. Are there other categories that you can create by using BIMLink?
Yeah, so that the new thing that we typed in at the beginning here, when I typed in new, you can create new level, new airplanes, new sheets,
Okay, everything there.
viewports, whatever. You can do so much, right? You can
Yeah, so,
swap
so not
elements.
geometry, but more elements such as sheets and views and levels.
You can based on the geometry.
You
So you
can
just need to know
create geometry.
the related data tables that you will need to import. Because if you need
Okay.
to position the X and Y positioning, like the viewport is technically positioning based on space location, right? So you need to know where that would land in order for you to put that. But
Yeah,
it comes in with
coordinates.
it comes in with our little template that kind of gives you a hint, right? Like this is what you need. You can always test one line item and see how it looks, and then act on that. That's what I typically do.
There are
Great
a
questions.
couple more questions.
Yeah.
Some people are asking about an education license. So if people are teaching Revit data, is there any way they can use, or maybe plans in the future so they could
I'm not aware
use
of that,
Ideate?
but there is a license, but there is like a trial that's 30 days from our website. You'd have to reach out to us and we'll talk. But I'm
Okay.
not aware of anything like that.
Okay.
Yep.
And other questions from Benjamin asks, is it possible to override default built-in codes for calculations? For example, use CA Title 24 plumbing fixture unit values for calculations rather than the default international plumbing codes. I don't know if it's a question specifically about the tool or about Revit generally speaking.
Is
Since
it
it,
just so? Mm-hmm.
so it's since it's about plumbing, I'm not that sure about it.
So is it overriding just the number that is in there? If you're just overriding a value, then yeah, you're able to do it with BIMLink.
Sure. There's another question from Benjamin. Can this be used for mech equipment schedules? We use Excel and then link a PDF of the Excel schedules in our company format. Can we import a schedule into Revit instead while maintaining the format? So I think you have the sticky that might be good
Yeah,
for that as well.
exactly. You
Okay.
got it. Yay.
Yeah.
So yay. So if you need to do anything like formatted and nice and pretty, or like pivot tables, you need to use sticky and stick that in. So there are workflows where you can use BIMLink to export raw data, and then you have another tab that is a pivot table that makes everything pretty. Then you're able to do that and then sticky it back in. You can keep that auto update. Unfortunately, I'm not doing that today, but it is possible. Yes, it is possible. Yep.
And
Question.
last question, then we'll move on from Ian. Is there any plans to include the ability to delete the sheets in the future?
It is an epic. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is something that we're looking into. Thanks for the suggestion.
All right. I'll
Thanks.
keep going.
Cool. All right, so for this exercise, I will be swapping elements with BIMLink. What I want to show is swapping columns that are on level 1, and I'm excluding anything that is located on grid B and grid I. So this is the structural model I'm showing you grid B and I. So everything is circular there right now. You can include subfolder if you want. Type in swap. These are element swapping. Let's say I'm showing columns right now. And these are the data related data table. And this is the family name and type. If you're wondering how you're able to do it, you can do it right here. If you do pick the export with drop-down menu, it gives you like another column that shows you the available things that you can swap that are available in the model without having to know exactly how to type it and what the syntax looks like. So this is the light gray that are drop-down menus. So let's say I'm selecting all the columns on level 1 because that was the exercise. And then I want to go ahead and select the column mark location. So this is, I'm going to exclude B and I. So it doesn't contain B and it doesn't contain I. So you'll see that the B and I here is going to disappear from my list. It's filtered out. Then go ahead, because of the drop-down menu that's available, I'm able to swap it. You can go ahead and drag it down if that's what you want, and you can go ahead and copy and paste it to that new location. Save it, and push it back into the model with import. So it's taking some time swapping all the elements in your model. And then the yellow, as you said, is the new updated one, the 0 warnings. If there are warnings, it will get flagged here. Okay, great. We saw all that. We looked at all there's no errors. You can go ahead and import it. So this is the new square that we've added, and it excluded B and I. Cool. All right. The next thing I want to talk about, this is a little concept called the alternate data key. So basically what this is, it allows you to select another element to push information back into the model, another information basically. So the way BIMLink works right now, if you have noticed or not noticed, is that it uses the element ID or type element ID to be able to kind of map all the other data that are associated with that back into your Revit model. So let's say if you want to use an alternate data key, you're able to right click on that little parameter as long as it is unique. You're able to use it as a unique identifier that is able to push all the other information in there. Like if you were thinking about the modular approach, this would be a great example. If you have one model that has all the data that you need, and then all the other models need it as well. So you'd export it from one model, and then you can utilize something that is unique identifier to all the data, and then you can go ahead and push it to all the other ones. So the data is distributed. So for example, in here, if you are looking at like the category and subcategory from one model to another, let's say you have a core and shell model, the two separate models, and you just want to standardize all the object styles, you can select your category and subcategories as your basically the alternate data key. Or a very good example that recently I helped with a customer with my colleague Richard is looking at the room number and room name. So if you have program data requirements that comes in a tabular format, so there is like the tab name and then the room number and title basically. And so how you would push that into the Revit model without having to worry about going in and creating a lot of these basically export, it's kind of helps you map it. Like if you are using VLOOKUP tables to look at that data and match this and this. So these are the changes that we made in that Excel to be able to push it in the Revit model. So the Revit model had the rooms, but there's no adjacent data that are available in there. We just needed to fill that out, but we have the data. Instead of relying on element ID, we had relied on the number and name. We had set those as our data keys. And also we've gone ahead and named these titles accordingly. So like this is what the Revit model BIMLink definition looked like. These are the shared parameter values that were added biosafety lab level. That's what we had renamed the bio level to that. And then we had renamed the air pressure to air circulation pressure to match so that it knows which one to map it to. And this is the BIMLink definition name. So once you push this in here, you'll see 101 research will have lab 1 positive right here. It will push all of that into the model. with one push, utilizing the name and number that is a unique identifier. So
Uh,
again, like, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I wanted to ask. So this is a bit like there's this key schedule feature in Revit. So this is like that, but
It's
kind of a
similar, yeah.
boosted version,
It's
a more
boosted,
sophisticated.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Exactly, you got it. Yeah, so these are the unique identifier. Like if I had only picked the name, this might not be a good example, right? So 103 office is my unique identifier. Cool. Customizing BIMLink. So there are ways that you can actually customize your BIMLink definitions. Okay, so the benefit of customization, you're basically reducing the number of choices anyone in your team has to make. For example, BIMLink does ship with 350 BIMLink definitions, and we know maybe not all of them apply to your discipline or workflows internally. Maybe you want to customize that. So within the software, you're able to provide basically to your downstream users on how you can use that BIMLink definitions that you have, and you can customize the UI itself. And you'll learn that if not all, of our rules that you see here are all of our links are rule-based in the BIMLink definitions, and that's what you kind of need to pay attention to when you're creating a new BIMLink definition. So the first step, I would recommend just taking our library and copying it in a central location and edit out what you don't need. Basically having things that you need under that file, and that's the only thing that your team will have access to. Just so you know, as you see here, this is English. This is the English sample. We do support other languages, German, English, French, Chinese, and Japanese. And you'll notice that there is a lot of localization effort that we put in to make sure that other languages also work. So like parameter values, in a different language might say something else to filter something out. All this information is also available for you. So when you are creating a BIMLink definitions, there are a lot of things that you kind of need to pay attention to. So there are 3 ways that you can create a BIMLink definition from scratch. You either browse, which looks at our content, or you can do by category or by schedule. By schedule looks at the Revit schedules in your model, and you can export that to Excel directly. There are pros and cons, which I'm going to get into. So what I typically do is go by category. And let's say I want to create something regarding doors. I can go ahead and type door in my by category, and it will give you like a list of our data that we have, BIMLink definitions, or you can look at ones that are available in your Revit model. Anything related to doors or has anything to do with the door category, it will show it to you here. Okay. Also, if you need to look at what data that you're pushing in. Is it instance information or is it type information? So this is something to pay attention to. One thing to note before I switch out of this, if you do pick the Revit schedule, you'll have to understand that you are limited to what Revit can do. You can go ahead, obviously add the extra parameters that are BIMLink specific, but you will be limited to what Revit does, and it will also, that BIMLink definition will mirror what Revit is showing you. Also, with the link choices, you need to give it a proper name and a description. This description helps your downstream users to be able to utilize this BIMLink definition that you've created, either office-wide or project-wide. And also, there are linked options with the exports with drop-down value, which we saw with the family name and type. You have to include that. If you want to see the drop-down menu, you'd have to have this checked. And you for just like a Revit schedule, when you create it, you have options for your parameters that you want to add. So there are available parameters in your project, and also BIMLink only available parameters, which are available in Revit, but just not easily exposed to the users. Like something is facing flipped or hand flipped or in place monitoring, is nested, pinned, or work plane flipped. You're able to add all those. Let's say you're creating your doors BIMLink definitions, and you want to do a lot of model audits and QA/QC. So let's say is pinned or like is nested is one of the things that you want to look into, then you can include it in that link definition. Just to be mindful that it is beyond the Revit data schedule. Then I would look into, this is the question that you were asking about, the including the linked elements. If there's a linked file and you want to read the information from that linked file, you can say include linked elements. And in the related data table, which is something else that you need to look into, is the Revit link. You can click the Revit link and then you get the Revit link name. If it has a value, then it is coming, that information is coming from a link. If it doesn't, then it's coming from the main model. So you're able to actually do that. Last things, with the link, much like Revit, you need to look at your filtering and sorting. Something to know, and phases, obviously. With your filters, the filters that we have in terms of the conditions are way longer than what Revit is able to provide. And also the types of properties that you can select are much grander, which is what we've discussed earlier. Also, it allows you to have an and or situation. So if we had to click this all element must pass, it's an and or situation. Here, let's say with phases, the way that we do it is that we're not constricted by showing one phase, for example, in one schedule, like how Revit does it, where it only shows you new construction or like existing, and the phase filters determine that. But with our phase filtering, if you have a phase project and you want to just show all the phases, you're able to just say show all phases, or design options or whatever. You can actually do that. Similarly, it works similarly. And then the sorting, again, a bit more refined and detailed than what Revit's able to do. Then let's say you're happy with the BIMLink definition that you've created, you can go ahead and right click and save. And this is, you see the description. Let's say someone in the team had created it, they want to send it to the BIM manager. You have information, we really need this when we're creating curtain panel systems. Let's include that in our library. So you can go ahead and send it. The library path in where it lives, like we saw, it's in the sample files. So if you want to repath it or put it somewhere else, you can add more than one path location. You can maybe keep this one and add another one if you want, one that's custom to your company or project. And what this does when you do this action initially manually is it creates a settings files under your Ideate BIMLink settings file in your local app data, and it generates this settings file that includes the path locations of these library. So you're able to push it to your company, however your company deploys your content, and you can certainly place it under your program data Ideate BIMLink, and it kind of looks for links here first, actually, just so you know. Okay, let's talk about automation. There are a few questions earlier that came on regarding automation.
Like there are a few of them. Looking, I think we're up to date with the questions. But it's 4 p.m. already in live. So we have a bit more time. So if you're watching live, we'll keep going a little bit to learn about Ideate Automation.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry. So Ideate Automation basically helps you automate repetitive tasks using our existing tools. Like we talked about Ideate BIMLink and Explorer. It exports all the warnings that you see in Explorer, and it puts it in an Excel for you. With automation, if you're looking to export model health check, and also BIMLink data, if you want to export anything to do with your model, you can do that there. It exports things from Ideate Apps, which wasn't covered today, but it exports that information as well, and Ideate Style Manager. There are some workflows, however, that doesn't need our tools, such as exporting to PDF and DWG, but there is a small little exception, which I'm going to be talking about. If you export to PDF or DWG with or without our tools. Okay, so I want to just show you automation. Oops, sorry. So it is a desktop application, as you can see. This is just showing them in 2.1. I think we're at 2.2 now. You can automate tasks coming in from the live cloud models or local. We've implemented this recent Revit files as well. If you open the file, it will cache it basically right there. And this is just going into a hub. That's what I'm showing right here. And then you can kind of see the list of the projects. You can certainly use the search bar there to find all the projects. You can see the Revit versions associated with that, which is super helpful. And this is showing you the local models and how that looks like. If you want to create a task, you hit create. Again, this is the DWG and PDF workflows. That doesn't need our tools, but the other ones would, and I'll show you why that is. So if I'm exporting health checks in here, it tells you at the bottom, I need BIMLink this, Explorer that version, apps that version, because I am exporting all this data from that model, from those tools. So it opens them in the background basically. So you're selecting the model, you're telling it where you can put that, and then this is the file name, the date, and then the thing, and then, oh, sorry, just go back to that. So this is something that we've included if, because we have this tool, Ideate, part of the Ideate apps called Ideate Annotation, which allows you to look at clashes if the text is on top of each other and it's not legible. Then you're able to include that as part of your health check that you're exporting. So if it's set to false, it actually exports the data with all your worksets closed. So if that's something that you're not looking into at that point, all your worksets are going to be closed, and your Revit model data that is going to be exported through BIMLink, for example, doesn't need all your worksets to be open. So that's something we've done to optimize that. If you do set it to true, then it's gonna open that file with all your worksets open. This gives you a summary of where that's going to be, the exports. This is kind of typically a test that you run kind of in the background or like at the end of the day or another machine. And you can schedule this to kind of run this every night or every week. And it basically goes through the model and exports, so depending on how big your model size
Yes.
is.
So you can set it up to run like during the middle of the night, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah, you
using
can
the
set it.
Windows. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
Windows Task
using.
Scheduler.
Yeah, I'm using another plugin for automatic printing, like during the middle of the night for PDFs and exports. So you can do the same thing
Mm-hmm.
with Ideate Automation. Oh, cool.
Yep, yep. And you run it in the background, and I'll show you what the benefit is of using BIMLink to actually do your exports. Okay, so it exported it, and then you go into the log, you check what's going on here. You're mainly looking for like the code error 0. It's kind of like a log file of what happened. It's kind of like a Revit log file. Every action that it did, it kind of puts it in a line item. So it gives you detailed information of what happened in the model. So this is the export that we've done. This might look familiar. This was the manual way that we've done earlier. So this gives you the summary and then the color tabs depending on which tool it came from. And these are all the orange. These are the summaries in here. This is looking at the worksets and phasing. And then, yeah, basically imports are in place. Kind of gives you like a summary of what it is. You have the blue ones that are coming in from BIMLink. And then these are the warnings, the Explorer that we saw, and then these were the annotation issues. You can see how many issues are in which sheet, and you can easily like take that data. You either, again, depending on how you want to track your information in the model, you can actually sticky this, which we've seen a lot of people do, sticky it back into the Revit model using Ideate Sticky, so that the homepage gets updated every time there's a new export that's happening every night, which is super
Hmm.
helpful.
Okay, so if I understand properly, I was working with a client recently, and the client was looking to is currently using other plugins or Dynamo to push information from an Excel spreadsheet to the model and vice versa. And but he was saying, yeah, to do the same thing for like 12 models a day, and it was very tedious. Like even though part of
Right.
it is automated, so at least doesn't have to enter the values in Excel to Revit. but still it has to open all the models and do the task, like load um, each Excel file each time. So what I'm understanding with this automation, it can be automated, right?
You can export the data currently, but we are working into pushing
Okay.
that information back into the Revit model.
Okay,
Yeah.
right now it's for exportation
Yeah.
to Excel.
Yeah,
Okay,
there
so
are some
eventually.
workflows. Yeah, there are some workflows that addresses model editing, but we haven't published that yet.
Okay.
But this is something that we have been carefully thinking about, because there is
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of implication into just mass pushing information into the Revit model.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
the thing
You
that
have to be
yeah,
careful with
like
that.
the thing that we love about BIMLink is that it tells you like, okay, if I push this in directly, I have 3 errors. What
Uh-huh.
are those? Like I wonder what those are, right? It's very scary to
So,
do mass
yes.
editing silently in the background.
So you could have something in the middle of the night that like messes up your Revit model, and in the morning,
Yeah,
like what's
like
going on there?
yeah, exactly. It's
Mm-hmm.
difficult, right? It's difficult to think about. Yeah. So that's something that we're constantly thinking about how we're going to implement. As a result, from what we saw, you're able to export automated and consistent results. And you can, like I said, you can make this sticky and you push it back into your Revit model homepage that gets updated every night and whatnot, so that users are able to see what's going on in your Revit model. We do provide a Power BI. You asked me about the warnings. So we've created a Power BI dashboard that relates to the data that we export, and also they are all actionable items, basically that we think affects the model performance. And we've included that as well. If you're a customer, we're able to share that. Yeah. So one thing I think I've alluded to earlier is printing sheets, either PDF or DWG via not BIMLink or via BIMLink. If you do it via BIMLink or not via BIMLink, just the Revit way, which is relying on the Revit sheet set. The sheet set lives in the model and is a static. So it constantly needs to be updated. You sometimes run this automated task that's like 100 sheets and you just don't even know if the sheet set is right. It's, right. So because you have to go back into the Revit model once again to check that. So we had resolved that issue by creating another way to export the PDF and DWG formats using BIMLink as your Revit sheet list to generate that. Like we've talked about here, all must be filter must be true, and it begins with S20, and this is the S20, so it's going to only print those. So if you're printing like a bunch of files and you know exactly what the parameters are that you want to target, you're able to create a BIMLink definition. Again, you can either save it somewhere or point to it, and that's going to be the one that is standardized. Like let's say issued for construction one or whatever, or like the sheet includes A only or something like that, that you're able to automate it without going into the model. You don't need to. So what you don't need to go into the model to create that BIMLink either. You can have that externally, and what automation does, it temporarily puts it in the model, uses it as the data to export the thing, and then pushes it, takes it out of the model. So that information can live outside the model in just a simple TXT file. Okay. Lastly, I do want to talk about some new features that we are working on with Explorer and BIMLink. We had released this information to our beta tester, but it hasn't been formally released on our website. So I thought, because this kind of really relates directly to what I'm talking about today, that I want to talk about it and release it. So with Ideate Explorer, you saw earlier that I did use the query to select parameters and their values, and it is static. You have to understand, if you do create that selection, it is static. It doesn't get updated all the time. If you saved it that selection, let's say you're in place and you saved it like the Revit save selection, that selection specifically is going to be static. It's not going to be flexing in updates. It's not going to be dynamic. And our first initial solution to this problem is to utilize the built-in Revit filters, because that is dynamic. So every time you update, like let's say 1 hour fire rating for that door, it's going to add it to that list of data tree. But then we later realized that, the Revit filter is very limited. There's a lot of information there that users can't even access, like the unconnected wall heights or is it in place. They're just not available in our filtering. So our solution was to create a customizable rules in Explorer where you can save these criteria and reuse them. So these are Explorer specific filters that we were integrating. And this is like an example of these dynamic filters and how they would look like. You can load them into your model. You can have as many as you want. Let's say in this example, the pipe fittings, the rule was less than 90 and greater than 90.1, which is like a decimal issue. And it will flag all these pipe fittings in your model that are between those degrees that are not exactly 90 degrees. So this is like one of the applications that you can use this with. You can have that list, you can double click to it, takes you into the model, and you can see that very quickly based on the parameter data, parameter values. These are some of the out-of-box custom filters that we've created. You can easily like have the link of Revit files that are not shared. You can see that list. You can easily tell if you pick that filter. You can tell the Revit files that are in your model that are not shared. You can check if the element is hosted or not hosted, if it lost its hosting. Excluding groups. If you want to mass edit, let's say the work sets or elements in their work sets that you need to do massive like model edits, you can use this function where it selects the entire model. Anything is not in a group, it unselects it, part of that selection. So you can do it in a two-step process. The first one is to select everything not in a group, move it to the proper work sets, and then do the groups separately. Or if something is not monitoring anymore, let's say you did want to monitor your grids and suddenly they're not monitoring, then you're able to flag that something is in place. We looked at that. Views no templates. Basically, the list kind of goes on, and you can create your own filters if you want. This is just examples of what we're going to ship our products with. Ideate BIMLink new feature that we're actually looking at is the ability to edit, mass edit, basically the walls, floors, ceiling, roofs layer data, including the materials and thicknesses. So you can export this again, like you saw with BIMLink, export all that data from your Revit model, and you assign the proper material and you assign the proper thicknesses based on what they are. And you can push it into the model. This helps you like prepare your model for embodied carbon reviews if that's what you want to do, or you just like reviewing the model and make sure all your gypsum wall layers are this thickness for your model. You just don't need to go to every single wall and click it, which takes a long time. And we saw one of our beta tester was actually prepping the Revit model for Rhino workflows, which I thought was interesting. I've included that there. Okay. So as a summary, I just included the things that we care about. I really care about the fact that we make this data, Revit model data, accessible to all users and empower them to make judgments and navigate the model in such a user-friendly interface, able to make informed decision about their model and make powerful edits. And we're continuing to grow as a company, and the future is basically very bright. So if you're wondering where to begin, we have our website, which has a lot of information. A lot of the things that I talked about today is already on our website, so you can go ahead and do that. If you have any questions for support, we have a support inbox. That's the email there. I've included my email as well, and the LinkedIn, my LinkedIn information. You can go ahead and reach out if you want. And to know, on our website, every one of our products has a getting started guide, as well as a how-to guide. And if you Google something, create new sheets, BIMLink, you'll be able to find a lot of information on Google that leads you directly to our website. Yeah, that's it.
All right, great job.
Thank you.
And yeah, I wanted to mention, it's funny, 2 weeks ago I had a session with Monica Greco from JazzMax, and they're using like 15 plugins at JazzMax, and I've asked her what which one is her favorite, and she mentioned Ideate. I think I don't know
Nice.
if she specifically mentioned Ideate Explorer, but I thought
Nice.
it was pretty good timing. I've got someone from Ideate in 2 weeks.
Love it.
So
Nice.
a great endorsement. And yeah, right. And by the way, I recommend that you watch that episode 2 weeks ago if you're interested in managing plugins. Because if you have like 15 plugins, it can get pretty difficult to manage and it can cause some issues. So if you're wondering how to deal with that, have a look at the episode number 50, I think, with Monica Greco. And
Cool.
yeah, so thanks, Nivin. That was super interesting. I hope that people in the audience in the chat seem to have enjoyed it.
Wonderful.
All right. Did we cover most questions? I think so. And we got Richard in the chat from Ideate and answering some of
Nice.
them live. So that's great.
Love it. Thanks, Richard.
And okay, quickly before, just a minute there. Okay, before ending the show, once again, the Advanced Revit Family Strategies. This is a cohort-based course. This is the second time I will give this cohort. I would be thrilled if you can join me to learn how to create great Revit families, to have an amazing library that your users will love and will help you create great quality models. And that starts on March 20th. And you can enroll. The link is in the YouTube description. Yeah, that's it. Back to you, Nivin. And yeah, one more thing. So this is the season finale of for the winter season of Revit Pure Live. I
Nice.
asked earlier on if you can type in the chat what guests you would like to see for the upcoming season. So again, you have a bit more time if you didn't have time to say so. And if you're not watching live, you can also type in the comments in the replay of the YouTube video. Looking forward to it, and I'll look at all suggestions and think deeply about it. All right, Nivin, is there anything else you wanted to mention before we go off?
No, thank you so much for inviting me. That was great. I had a great time.
Well, me too. So thanks for joining the session. Thanks for all these great instructions. Thanks to Richard being live in the chat, answering the questions, and to everyone watching the live session. Yeah, I think we did it all. So thanks, everybody. Thank you, Nivin. Thanks, everyone in the chat. Thanks, everyone watching the replay. And see you in a couple of months, I guess, for the spring season. Bye.